How many of you have heard this before? Your opinion as a father means nothing to me. My children have nothing to do with you. They are mine, and I will decide what's best for them. Whenever the alienator is speaking about our children, they will constantly refer to them as mine. It is a constant battle of whether or not your opinion matters as a father or a mother. For that instance, it could be either party. But I'll use father for the most part because I'm pertaining to myself here. But I constantly hear from my ex that my opinion is irrelevant. I constantly hear from my ex about how her children, not my children, her children are better off without. Her children and what she does for them is all that technically matters. How is it that when it takes two people to make a baby, it only takes one parent to believe that they are all that the child needs? I've had my children for years, as I've discussed in other videos that I've done. I now have a 21-year-old, a 12-year-old, and two 9-year-olds, as well as 3 stepchildren, who all of them, in some form or another, I help raise. How is it that the alienator can only come up with the words mine? There's never our. Well, it's because honestly, you don't matter. You don't. To them, you mean nothing. To them, they are better off without you. It's a very disgusting thought. Disturbing, to say the least. Why, if that person that you had that child with, if they're a good person, and I'm not, there's other people out there that they have stories of their own, and I wish that they would share them, but they have stories of their own where, they have a situation that they're protecting their child from the other parent because the child is actually in danger with the other parent. That makes sense. I get it. The court deems that the parent that is of a stable situation, that parent should be the full-time caregiver and full custodial parent because the other parent is dangerous of some kind, abusive of some kind, even if it's only to themselves, even if they're, an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever, they shouldn't be around the influential child. Totally understand. This isn't the case in my case. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke, I don't do any of those things. I'm not an abusive person. But in my case, I'm constantly treated as though I am. The picture is always being painted of me and has been painted of me for 6 years now to justify the narcissistic behavior of, in this case, my ex. Whether that's okay or not by her, she doesn't care. Because by her, I don't exist. To the children, she paints the picture that I don't exist, trying to erase me from my family. She never uses the word our, ever. Not in text message, not in conversation, not to the children. It's always her, mine, and the really good one is over my dead body. Anything that I actually want to ever do extracurricularly with the children, over her dead body. That will never happen because she won't allow it. When did they become possessions? When did children that you were blessed with to raise become possessions that you use and sharpen and attempt to kill with? They literally do. They take a child, they sharpen them into a weapon, and they use that weapon against the person that loves them, because they know that that's the only thing that will hurt them. And according to everybody who could possibly do anything about this, especially CAS, they can call it alienation. I've had a CAS worker in my house, specifically to my face, say, you are dealing with a case of alienation where your ex is alienating your children. The next phone call I received from that child worker says, yes, this is the situation, but we're closing the file. How? How is it that you can see that the children are being alienated? You can see that the children are being abused mentally in the fact that they are being turned against the other parent by the narcissist. And you still go, yeah, really, there's nothing we can do about it at the moment. Maybe you should call again. Then you wonder why people take all these things into their own hands. You wonder why there are so many cases of situations that happen and then the other person is to blame. They're driven to the point that they have no option anymore, because up until recently, nobody even believed in alienation. It's just recently, over the past few years, that these things have started coming up and going, wait a second, maybe there's something more to this. Maybe that parent that just seems to be after the money, maybe there's something wrong with them. Maybe what they're saying to the child isn't correct. I have a lot of years of experience in this, unfortunately, but that is what it is, and we have to deal with it, and we have to get past it, and we have to somehow mend it. But how do you mend the time that you've lost? Can you? I've heard stories of people that haven't seen their kids for 8, 9, 10 years. How do you spend a lifetime with a child and a child comes back to you and says, you were never there. I don't ever remember you there. You left mom and I, or you left dad and I alone ever since I could remember. The only way that happens is one is brainwashing the child. Father or mother, whoever the one is that constantly has the ear of the child, they are being brainwashed. And that is abuse. That is child abuse in its most absolute form. You're taking a child and turning them against the other parent for your own sick and twisted means. This needs to be stopped. It has to be stopped. I can't stay quiet about this any longer. It turns in my stomach. It makes my heart hurt so bad. Not just for me. Oh my God, for the stories that I'm hearing, for the people that have contacted me, for what I'm watching on these groups that, like I said, parents that haven't seen their kids. I can't imagine not seeing my kid for 10 years. Even though now it's been almost 3 since I've seen my oldest. And she says those things to me, which are absolutely falsified, but justified by the narcissist. All they're doing is erasing you from your child's past. Regardless how hard you fight, you will be erased. And the reason is you can't compete with what's being said when they're with their other parent 95% of the time. And they don't want to hurt the other parent. It's not malicious by the child, but eventually the child starts to believe it because of the way that the parent words it. Give you an example. A couple weeks ago, I wanted to keep my children for an extra day. My ex wasn't around anyway. Her boyfriend's watching the kids. That's not right. I'm the other custodial parent. I have 50-50 custody of my children. I don't have residence, but I have 50-50 custody of my children. Every time I ask for more time, I'm denied. Vacations, I'm denied, which, by the way, I'll get to that in a second. But 2 weeks ago, wanted to keep my children for an extra day. Thought, nothing of it. I'm home anyway from work. It's all good. I have extra time. Denied. Finally got report cards from the school, though, which, there's a silver lining to this story, I guess. But I had to fight for those, too, because I don't get any information from my ex about my children's health, about my children's schooling, about anything, unless I actually go in and force the situation, which I did, and I got them. All 3 report cards. So, as I said, access denied. The children this last weekend, I had them again, and one of my daughters said to me, Dad, how come you didn't pick us up from school? Mom said that she ended up picking us up from school, but that's because she ended up getting the day off. The reason why she took the day off and pulled the kids out of school early, before 3 o'clock, was so that no matter what, if I did show up to pick them up early or from school at the end of school, they wouldn't be there. She already had them. She did that on purpose, knowing that I wanted to come and get them. Took an entire day off work just so that I wouldn't get them. And then told them that I wasn't available. Meanwhile, I was there. I could have taken them if I wanted to, if I was allowed to, if it was okayed by the parent. I was there getting the report cards. The children were told I didn't have the time for them. So as the alienator, jumbles the words around, paints the picture, the child just goes, well, Dad said he was coming. And the alienator says, sorry, kid. Your dad's too busy for you. And there it starts. Again, the child doesn't say anything maliciously. The parent does. The alienator does. Vacation. 2 years ago, my March break denied. Not allowed to travel with my children. Over her dead body would I take them to the U.S. Wanted to take them to a beach. Didn't happen. Fought it every step of the way. Couldn't get the passports anymore. Had to cancel the trip. Again, one of my daughters comes to the house for the March break, because I still had them for the holiday, although I wasn't allowed to take them away, and says, Dad, weren't we supposed to go to a beach? And I said, that was the plan, but unfortunately the plans didn't happen. Meanwhile, at this point, we didn't tell them anything about the trip. Never mentioned it. Never mentioned it at all, just in case it didn't happen, which it didn't. So she says that, and I said, no. I said, unfortunately, we're going to do something else. We're going to be here for the March break. And she says, okay. She goes, because Mommy said that you were going to steal us. Who in their right mind feeds children information along those lines that a parent, who, by the way, lives here, works here, Their house is here. Their blended family is here. Their life is here. Who's going to steal their children over a week's vacation to go to the U.S. and back? All itinerary was there, all contact information there, all the bullshit hoops that a parent has to jump through to prove to the other parent, because the other parent can't get it in their mind that both parents are entitled to spend time with their children. This March break, 2 years later, we're trying to go away again. And 2 years later, not happening. She's not letting it happen over her dead body. What I didn't know 2 years ago, but I know now, she can't stop me. A judge will not deny a parent vacation time with their children, especially if it's on their own schedule. If it was her March break and I tried to do it on her March break, then obviously I'm stepping over my boundaries there. It's her time with the kids, and I get it. So this year, we're going away. It's unfortunately a judge that has to actually, push this problem, and that she can't come to grips with the fact that they are our children and we are both entitled to them in the sense of spending time with them, but we are not entitled to owning them. We don't own our children. We were blessed to have our children. We are blessed to be able to be there to raise our children. Both parents need to step up and raise their children. Not constantly be condemned by the other parent who isn't even raising their children, by the way. Somebody else is, for the most part. But the other parent, or both parents, equally have the right to be parents. A court may deem this day and that day. A court may schedule this time and that time. But at the end of the day, what a child needs, what every child needs, is two parents who just love them. That's it. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to two parents loving and raising their children. Whether or not the two parents can co-parent is another thing. But at the end of the day, even if those two parents can't get along to co-parent, it has nothing to do with the children. The children have the right to have both of their parents involved in their lives, as long as neither parent is abusive to the child or to themselves, or is in some way or another harming the child. Both parents should equally be involved in the child's lives. In my case, lots of children, lives. Not one person made them. Not one person raised them. Whether or not the narcissist chooses to, accept the fact that, it took two people and two people were there and two people were married and two people were in love with each other and two people finally couldn't get their shit together and two people divorced. That's fine, dandy, whatever the story is. At the end of the day, I don't care. I didn't divorce my children. I divorced my wife. Or my wife divorced me, or somebody divorced somebody, but I never left my children. And just because a narcissist can't control you, they will do everything in their power to hurt you. Unfortunately, when they prove that they treat their children as possessions, they're no longer deserving of the right to be called parent. That is what CAS needs to see. That is what the court needs to see. And that, unfortunately, until everybody recognizes those traits of an alienator, more children will get screwed up. More things will happen through CAS that are unjust to the child. And there has to be a group designed to advocate for children. Let the parents dish out their own shit. Eventually, they'll smarten up. Eventually, parents will realize that they're hurting their children. They're tearing them apart. But until then, organizations like CAS, they really need to get their shit together. Advocate for the children. It should be equal time instantly. Instantly, because not one parent over the other is any less or more important. So how is it that all these people with no cause have the opportunity to eliminate and alienate the other parent? It's because the court system is unjust. The court system lays into usually the mother first, unless for some reason they can prove that the mother is incompetent. If we take the system that is broken and we mend the system that is broken by making what is right for the child most important first, we may just actually fix a generation of children that are loved because there are children and not because there are possessions. No child was ever meant to be owned. Peace. Till next time, I've gone on long enough.